artists. I hope you've been enjoying our quilt unit. This week we are going to be talking about story quilts continued. So last week we looked at the work of Amina Robinson and we kind of talked about what story quilts were, how Amina used her quilts to tell a story and share specific memories from her life. Well, the artist we're looking at today, Faith Ringgold, uh, does the same thing. Let's take a closer look at her work. So, the quilt hanging in the studio behind me is a piece from one of her books called Tar Beach. She is the author of that story and she illustrated the pictures in it as well. So, who is Faith Ringgold? Well, she was born in Manhattan, New York in 1930. Her most famous artworks are her story quilts. There were a combination of these are a combination of sewing fabric and painting stories of her life. She's also an award-winning author and illustrator, as I just explained. So let's hear the artist talk about herself in her own words.
Who I am. My story as an artist is who I am. That's where the art comes from. I am black and I am a woman. Here it is. Faith Ringgold's story started in New York City in the 1930s. It was the tail end of the Harlem Renaissance, a time when African American painters, musicians, and writers were turning their stories into great art. There was a tremendous cultural activity going on in Harlem. The first time when black people felt comfortable about showing their own image. Inspired by the artists in Harlem, Ringgold went to college to study art and barely noticed she was one of the few black women there. It never ever occurred to me that, you don't see nobody look like you, Faith. What are you thinking? In college, she learned to paint in a European style that was centuries old. She copied Greek busts and paintings by artists like Cezanne and Rembrandt. But when she graduated, ready to become a painter, the world was changing fast. Civil rights protesters were everywhere, demanding equal rights for African Americans. And I said to myself, you're taking a European theme and making still life and landscapes? You are in the middle of all this? You can't do that. Ringgold turned to her African roots for inspiration. She loved the colorful patterns, rhythms, and repetitions of African textiles. Slaves like Faith's great-great-grandmother brought those traditions to the U.S. and made quilts in vibrant colors and complicated patterns. And I said, boy, I can combine all of this European composition with my ancestral African roots in quilt making. Create from my experience. At the time, contemporary art looked like this. Abstract paintings by people like Willem de Kooning and Jackson Pollock that weren't meant to represent anything in the real world. But Ringgold wanted to tell stories. She made quilts in the tradition of her ancestors and added words to create a new art form, the story quilt. She told stories about the heroes of African American history and personal stories about hot summer nights growing up near the George Washington Bridge. In a lifetime as an artist, she's made paintings, sculptures, quilts, and children's books. You can even find her art in the New York City subway at 125th Street in Harlem, where she paid tribute to the famous neighbors who gave her the confidence to get her life and her art off the ground. I became an artist so that I could tell my story. And I just decided, when somebody says you can't do something, do more of it. Accelerate. That's the way you get it done.
So, as we just saw, like Amina Robinson, Faith Ringgold used some of the traditions, the fiber traditions of her ancestors, and incorporated them into her own incredible works of art where she could tell her story. So, next, I'd like you to listen to the story Tar Beach, read by the artist herself.
My name is Faith Ringgold, and I wrote Tar Beach, a book, in 1990. I will always remember when the stars fell down around me and lifted me up above the George Washington Bridge. I could see our tiny rooftop with Mommy and Daddy and Mr. and Mrs. Honey, our next door neighbors, still playing cards as if nothing was going on. And BB, my baby brother, lying real still on the mattress, just like I told him to. His eyes like huge floodlights tracking me through the sky. Sleeping on Tar Beach was magical. Lying on the roof in the night with the stars and skyscraper buildings all around me made me feel rich, like I owned all that I could see. The bridge was my most prized possession. Daddy said that the George Washington Bridge is the longest and most beautiful bridge in the world, and that it opened in 1931 on the very day I was born. Daddy worked on that bridge, hoisting cables. Since then, I've wanted that bridge to be mine. Now I have claimed it. All I had to do was fly over it for it to be mine forever. I can wear it like a giant diamond necklace. Or just fly above it and marvel at its sparkling beauty. I can fly. Yes, fly. Me, Cassie Louise Lightfoot, only 8 years old and in the 3rd grade, and I can fly. That means I am free to go wherever I want for the rest of my life. Daddy took me to see the new Union building he is working on. He can walk on steel girders, high up in the sky, and not fall. They call him the cat. But still he can't join the Union because Grandpa wasn't a member. Well, Daddy is going to own that building because I'm going to fly over it and give it to him. Then it won't matter that he's not in their old union or whether he's colored or a half-breed Indian, like they say. He'll be rich and won't have to stand on 24-story high girders and look down. He can look at his building going up. And Mommy won't cry all winter when he goes to look for work and doesn't come home. And Mommy can laugh and sleep late like Mrs. Honey. And we can have ice cream every night for dessert. Next, I'm going to fly over the ice cream factory just to make sure we do. Tonight, we're going up to Tar Beach. Mommy is roasting peanuts and frying chicken, and Daddy will bring home a watermelon. Mr. and Mrs. Honey will bring the beer and their old green card table. And then the stars will fall around me, and I will fly to the Union Building. I'll take BB with me. He has threatened to tell Mommy and Daddy if I leave him behind. I have told him it's very easy. Anyone can fly. All you need is somewhere to go that you can't get to any other way. The next thing you know, you're flying among the stars. The end.
Wow, what an incredible story. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at our art project for this week. Hi artists, I hope you've been enjoying our lessons about the freedom quilt patches and about the story quilts. This week we are going to be creating our own quilt pattern, our own quilt patch. And you are going to draw pictures and make a story quilt of your own. So let's get started. So remember, to create a square, you are going to fold one corner of your paper up like this, and we're going to cut off this top flap right here. When we open it up, we will have a square sheet of paper. Okay. Now we're going to create a grid pattern on here by doing a series of folds like we've done the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to fold my paper up, make sure it's even, make a good crease. I'm going to do that one more time. And when I open it up, I have 4 rows going across. And now I'm going to fold my paper the other way. And I'm going to fold it one more time. Okay. And when I open this up, now I have 4 columns. So I have 16 small squares. Okay. Now you're going to need either a ruler or a straight edge. The last couple weeks, we were doing the freedom quilt patches, right? This was the shoe fly that I showed you how to draw last week. We also worked on the North Star pattern. Okay, this week you're going to create your own pattern. Okay? The only thing I'd like you to do is make sure that you leave a square in the middle. So I'm going to find this first fold, and I'm going to line my ruler up, and I'm going to trace the square in the center . Okay. Now, just like our artists that we've been studying, Amina Robinson and Faith Ringgold, how they told us a story or something, a favorite memory or different things from their lives, I want you to do the same thing here. So I'd like you to draw a picture of yourself. If you want to print one out or take a new photograph, if you have permission, you can collage that onto here like I've done on this side. Or you can simply draw a picture of yourself. You can include your family or friends if you want, but I would like to have you do a picture of yourself in the center. The area around here, you can create any kind of a pattern you'd like for your border. And if you want to cut papers out and collage them, like how I did over there. If you have different scrapbook papers or old magazines, you're welcome to use that. Or you can use crayons or markers, always whatever you have on hand. So you can do whatever you want in the border around here. Whatever kind of quilt pattern you'd like to create. And just like we did before, I want you to draw different patterns in each space so that we're kind of mimicking the idea of fabric, because quilts are made out of fabric, right? Okay, so you are going to design your border however you'd like. You are going to include drawings of things that you like, things that are important to you. So if you wanted to draw pictures in the border, you can do that as well. I included a paintbrush and a paint splat because I love to paint. I found some buttons in the art room, so I put them on here. If you wanted to draw them out of paper and glue them on, you can. I drew little lines to make it look like my little, like these were quilted on, like they were sewn together. Okay. So you are going to tell me something about yourself. Little drawings of anything you like, the things that make you happy, what your interests are. And you're going to have a picture of yourself in the center. I'm going to draw a silhouette of a person. So your picture will go in the middle. You'll have a design around in the border. If you would like to use materials in collage, you may. If you would like to use crayons or markers, you can use that, or paint. Whatever you have on hand. And this week, just like last week, you are going to be taking a picture of your quilt square and posting it or uploading it into the Google Doc. All right, I can't wait to see what you make. Bye. Okay. So, remember, I said that I am taking the pictures that you share with me in the Google Doc and I'm combining them from the whole school and I'm creating one big collaborative piece with all of the quilt patches that we've made so far. I'm going to be including the Freedom Quilt patterns and your own little story quilt patch. So until next time, Clover and I are going to be hanging out in the studio and we cannot wait to see what you come up with. Bye.